Welcome back to the second episode of Amherst Sports Talk. On this episode, we have a fantastic interview with the legend himself, Billy McBride, Assistant Athletic Director at Amherst College. We also have Celtics Talk, a new segment with Coach Banks. So let's get this thing rolling.
Let's go.
Party people! Yeah!
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam.
All right, we are back. Episode 2 of Amherst Sports Talk. Excited to be back with you guys. Busy weekend, busy week since we last talked, right? We had basketball, we had lacrosse, we had hockey, we had a little bit of everything. Both the men's and the women's basketball teams are heading to the Sweet 16 this coming weekend. Starts on Friday. The men were in Rochester. They took down Rosemont in the first round, beat Rochester at their place in the second round. The women were home in Lafrac, beat Husson in the first round, took down Geneseo in the first round. GP continues to roll.
It's got the thing rolling.
No surprise there.
Yeah,
no surprise there. Great to see them win. They will be shipped off now to Minnesota, where they'll take on St. Thomas. I think they're ranked 3rd in the country, so tough test for GP and the women there. The other side of their pod is Wartburg versus UW Oshkosh. So tough pod there for GP and the women's team, but
They had a good weekend too. Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, the game versus Rosemont, that was a good start. Certainly, like you want to come out and you want to, dominate a game like that. And,
yep.
and I thought we did. What was the final? Ended up winning by what, 26?
25-ish, yeah.
25, yeah. Right. And then the second one versus Rochester was kind of that good test. I think we led all the way. Salou obviously had a big night versus Rosemont early. I think he had a double-double, into the third quarter. Grant came out, and I thought, Grant and Frew as well. Hit some big shots. There was that clip that we posted that was the NBA threes that Garrett and Grant put up. But that's good. And the men are coming back home, which is exciting. So we'll be at home Friday, Saturday. Excited. All students. We're jumping on the spring break, which is tough, right? It's kind of a tough week to have the home game.
Unfortunate, certainly. But anyone that's still around, come down to Lafrac. You get in for free with your student ID. Love to have everyone's support if we can get it.
Yep, no, but men's and women's lacrosse both kicked off their seasons over the past, I think both their first games were on Saturday.
We're on Saturday, and then they both played again on Tuesday.
Women played Colby Saturday at home. They lost 6-5. We did a little talk about it. I thought both goalies, Talia Land, our goalie, and the Colby goalie played phenomenal. We ended up dominating the statistic box, but hey, that doesn't win you games. The men had
the first game, I mean that was kind of laughable. The first game, it was up at Colby, and it was 17-3 at half.
It was 17-3 at half.
I remember a conversation we have, a little group chat with us and the lacrosse guys.
Hot take: I don't know if the men's lacrosse team could finish because they only put
17 goals at half and 7 in the second half. I think. So.
We got to finish games.
We're looking at you, Quinn Maroney. Need a little more there.
But no, certainly that was big for them, right? Then the men went to Western New England, took them down 16-11. I think Evan Wolf and Matt Solberg each put up 4 scores.
And both Lax teams will take the field again this weekend. The women are heading up to Bowdoin. The men here at Bowdoin, I believe, and then the women play Sunday as well against William Smith.
Yeah,
is that right?
Back here.
Back
right?
here
That's a
on
tough
Sunday.
Trip. Hockey. Also had the NESCAC semifinals and finals. I think it was Saturday,
Sunday, yeah. The Amherst hockey teams this weekend. The women, they went up to Williams, lost to Williams in the semis, unfortunately. Williams went on to win it on the women's side and head to the NCAA tournament. For the men, crazy weekend for the men. 2-0 double overtime win against Wesleyan in the semifinals. Nick Bondra with the game-winning goal in double overtime. Michael Cullen in net for Amherst was unbelievable in that game.
No, he was a brick wall. I mean, it was, I think we posted the one, but he, just snagged the puck out of the air coming from the high slot. So really impressive stuff from them. And then, what is that? They played 95 minutes on Saturday. They're asked to come right back out on Sunday. And they end up, fighting, getting it to, single overtime at Trinity versus Trinity. That was a heartbreaking goal for our team. Shout out to Trinity men's hockey because, they finished that game and they had the puck with like 3 seconds,
almost pinned up against the glass too.
I think our lines at that point had been on the ice for almost a full minute.
Yeah.
They fought till the end.
They fought. Super proud of that team and the coaches, Arena and Effinger and those guys. And great season for them. A great last couple weeks for them fighting to get into the NESCAC playoffs, win that quarterfinal game, and then the NESCAC final weekend was. They played great.
Yeah.
They did.
So both hockey teams are now, their seasons are over. They did not make the NCAA playoffs. So obviously looking ahead to the 2019-2020 season for them.
Yeah. So that's it for the recap this past week since we last talked to you guys. We have a great interview coming up right now. We sit down with Billy McBride, Assistant Athletic Director here in Amherst, and it was an unbelievable interview for us, and I hope you guys really enjoy it.
No, Billy's an awesome guy, and I certainly think that what he does for the student athletes here at Amherst goes so far beyond what these students have to deal with just in their 4 years at Amherst, but and carries over throughout their lives. And obviously, I'd love to. You could put any of the guys who've come through the Amherst college football team in particular. And Billy talks to our team at least once, if not 2 or 3 times a year. But he's done such a great job for not only this athletic department, but each individual team. And he's a longtime coach. He's coached, I think 4 different sports here at Amherst.
Yeah.
So, great interview. So we'll check into that right now.
Yeah, we'll send it to Billy.
Very special guest today. We welcome on Billy McBride. Billy McBride serves as the Assistant Athletic Director with a focus on diversity and inclusion. He's also the Director of Club Sports, and he is the liaison to the Center for Community Engagement. Billy, from Syracuse, right?
Correct.
From Syracuse, right? He went down south to my home state, Tennessee State University. He was a member of the 1975 NCAA men's basketball Final Four team. Was a 2-sport athlete, star athlete there. Was drafted in the NFL by the 49ers, right?
That's correct.
And that was in '79?
Yes.
During his tenure at Amherst, Billy has held several coaching positions. You've coached football. You were the head coach for women's basketball for 15 years, I think, and then was named the NESCAC and the Northeast Region District 1 Division III Russell Athletic WBCA Coach of the Year in 2000-2001.
That's wordy.
That was a long one.
Yeah.
That's the title right there. But Billy, thank you so much for coming on. Really excited to have you here.
Appreciate it.
So anyone that knows Billy can relate to this side. Guy likes to talk, and that's why we're super excited to have him on the show. We're really pumped to ask him some questions, just have him talk about kind of his experience at Amherst, his experience kind of throughout his whole life. Like Mitchell said, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate being here.
Yeah.
Good. So talk to me a little bit about how you got to Amherst.
Well, it was funny. I was in New York City, and I was actually negotiating a contract, or thought I could negotiate a contract with the New York Jets. And I remember sitting in an empty locker room, and the thought came to my head, don't quit your day job, because this is it. And I met a young lady there, and I thought about teaching and coaching, and she said, why don't you try? And I said, well, I'm not sure, because if I failed someone, maybe I failed to reach them, and I didn't want that burden. And lo and behold, I got a job at the Allen Stevenson School. Was there for a couple of years. They just thought I was just too expensive because I played pro sports. I said, no, just give me an opportunity to coach and teach. And believe it or not, that was part of the deal we worked out, because I was pursuing the so-called acting career, because we did commercials and that, and so they would let me go to auditions. One thing led to another. They were paying for me to go back to grad school because so many of the students were actually staying after school to hang out with this professional guy, and they thought it was cool. And then one of the professors said, Billy, you know, you're too big for this place. You need to really move on because you can influence a lot of people. And lo and behold, Amherst job came up. And I applied for the job and I had an interview, went down, going north. And once I hit exit 19, I'm coming out Route 9, and I'm like, where in the hell am I going? And I got to Amherst College and I interviewed, and their notion was to really improve the diversity within their department. And I thought, wow, this could be something I can latch on to because I can grow in this position because they're trying to grow in terms of the diversity. And man, lo and behold, it turned out to be the best move I've ever made in terms of reaching out, reflecting on the things that I was fortunate enough to do. But the Amherst brand has given me so much flexibility to do so many great things over my last 29 years here. But more importantly is the involvement with the student athlete, and what's important with that.
Yeah, well, when I talked to a few of the guys, who I've coached over my 5 years here, they were all, jacked up. That you were coming on, and Miles Gaines was like, yeah, don't even, you guys don't need to do an intro or anything. Put Billy on the intro, because Miles said he spent a lot of time, in your office over his 4 years, and certainly spoke very highly of the impact you had on him, as a young man, or even, they're teenagers, and they're some of the smartest teenagers in the world, but as Coach Mills likes to say, they're still idiots, right? And so that growth period for him. So certainly, for our guys, and I know Coach Mills and myself, anytime we're diving into, because obviously, the things with diversity, and here at Amherst, everything's kind of, I feel like, and it's good, but everything is focused in very tightly. There's a magnifying glass on kind of what we do here,
Right.
Because it is an issue, and it was an issue back in 1990.
No question.
Which, in a lot of places around the country, especially where I'm from, people didn't think about that.
Right.
So, no, but so talk to me a little bit about kind of what are your goals, and especially when it kind of comes down to, diversity and inclusion at Amherst and specifically in athletics.
When you talk about diversity, man, it's not a cookie-cutter formula. There's no formula to that. And so when you look at individuals, the individuals that I've met over the time here has really allowed me to grow. And when I have the title diversity and inclusion, what does that mean, really? Yes, you diversify your teams, but the inclusion part is very important. How do you include each other in what you bring to the table? And what I mean by that, we all bring some very unique values from our hometown, north, south, all over the country. And then you're in this small, unique environment. How do you make that work? So your values have a tendency to shift and change because of your interaction with each other. That's the piece of diversity. That's the piece about that being self-aware and socially aware of your environment. This is a laboratory of higher learning. This is a laboratory that you come in every day and learn something. So why not learn a little bit about you and how you affect other people around you? So my role here is, how do I affect the people I meet each and every day when I come to work? I love coming to work because I know there's something about this would give me an opportunity to be better at what I do. In order to do that, when you talk about diversity, you have to bring your best self. You have to bring your authentic self because you can't peel back personal layers. How do you grow in that area? Which is very challenging when you talk about racism. How do you grow? How do you make that work? It starts with each individual. And I always say self-approval is worth more time invested in yourself for a cause than it is somebody else. And as you navigate your experience over a 4-year time that's going to reshape you for 40 years the rest of your life, that's powerful. Words are productive.
Yep.
Feelings are powerful. How do you feel about your experience when you arrive? Or how are you leaving with that experience that you come in with? So it's almost like physics, right? If I leave to go to New York at 8 a.m. and you guys leave to go at 12 noon, unless I break down, you're not catching each other. However, the goal is to get to New York. So how do we get to this place of diversity and inclusion? Will there ever be a gap? Will we ever bridge that gap? No, the gap is, what do you do with that gap? Learning about each other. And it always changes because every year there's a new group of students who come in And you got to make that shift about what's happening with their social awareness of life experiences.
So you've been here for 28 years now, is that it?
Yes.
Long time, what makes, you've touched on kind of some of the special things about Amherst, and, Mitchell and I think Amherst is an unbelievable place, and that's why we're here, that's why we're doing this podcast. We want people to kind of realize how special Amherst is, how special this department is. So for you, 28 years, what's kept you here for 28 years, and your enthusiasm towards what you do is unmatched, and why is it that every day you love coming to work?
Because Amherst colleges allow me to develop me. And what I mean by that, I've gone from coaching, administration, in the classroom. I'm a published author here. Who would have thunk it? I have a podcast. They think I'm a great art critic. So I traveled to Spain 9 days researching Goya because I researched George Bellows. And so when I look back at that experience, I've been able to adhere to the values of liberal arts college education. Here I am, a coach, but yet I was able to grow as an individual, to grow along with the student. What this intellectual curiosity thing is all about, developing your mind. You remember I talked about that laboratory. I'm a part of that laboratory. So when I come to work, I know I'm going to gain something. People don't come into a fitness center to get worse. You come in to learn. People don't come into this athletic building to get bad at something. You come in to learn, and here again, it goes back to what I'm saying. Bring your best self. Be authentic about who you are. And I think I try to adhere to that. And by adhering to that, my door is always open.
Yep.
And the options are two. You can come in, or you can walk by and say hi. But I'm going to be present. And my presence is my enthusiasm of learning, because if I continue to learn and become a good listener, then the brand represents what it's all about. I try to mirror that not only in myself, but hopefully in the students, because they bring a lot of uniqueness to me as well.
Good. Yeah, no, I mean, I think from our end, especially as coaches, and it's you touched on it. Like there's absolutely no formula for looking at these issues of diversity and inclusion, and certainly not. I think it goes back to what you just said. They're not issues, right? It's not something that needs to be solved.
Right.
It's something that needs to be discovered, right?
Yes.
Because I think diversity and inclusion, it's never something that's going to go away, and it never will, because of where students, especially at a place like Amherst, people come from all over the world,
Yes.
right? The country. They come from
Right.
different. It's not just race. It's not just socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, you could have two white kids or two black kids could be completely different from
Yes.
each other, and so you
Yes.
can't look at it like that. So I
Right.
think it's really interesting just to, and especially, I'm new to it. You've been here 29 years, kind of doing this and dealing with
Right,
students, but over my 5 years, I've never learning about how to kind of, because obviously the end goal and same thing is inclusion, right? And bringing together a
Yes.
team and making them feel united,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So for us, I mean, that's our, and I feel like, and you've been a part of, 28 teams times 2 or 3, right? Because you coached
Right.
3 or 4 sports most of the
Right,
years you've been
right,
here, right? So
right.
how do you make all of those teams united? And we would all say that we've never had a successful team that's been united. I don't care if you win 8-1.
Mhm.
If your team's not united, wasn't successful as
Yeah.
coaches.
No
we
question,
didn't
no
do
question.
our job.
No question.
So, talk to me a little about what you've learned. Let's go back to what has athletics done for you kind of throughout your life, and how has it made you a better person? How's it made you a worse person?
I think I've been very fortunate. I use the term fortunate to be blessed that athletics was a part of my young life, growing up as a young adolescent in New York, Syracuse, New York. And basically, I grew up on my own, and I'm proud to say that. However, by making that statement, I grew up on my own, there were so many people around me that enabled me to realize that I had something in me that was a little different in spite of my circumstance. So sports was a very, very big part of that. From basketball to football to baseball, even to boxing. I used to get excused from elementary school to go fight because they wanted me to be a fighter. But I didn't like getting hit with those 16-inch gloves. I said, no way. But and I remember the director of the boys club would lock me in the gym and fight me like a man. He would never hit me in my face, but fight me like a man because he thought I could be a good boxer. I used to walk 12 miles with a backpack as a little kid, 10, 11 years old. I would get excused from elementary school to go box in front of sponsors. That's how bad. But I love baseball, I love basketball, and I love football. And, you know, I was a pretty decent athlete in high school, played all 3 sports, went to college, played 2 sports, and turned into a professional career. But I remember a statement at my Hall of Fame induction in Greater Syracuse, New York. My coach said to me, "Billy, you're 16 years old, living the life of a 40-year-old man." Because I lived on my own, and I had a car at 17. But what happened with sports was a glue. I couldn't wait for basketball practice. I couldn't wait for football practice. I couldn't wait to get around others, even though, you know, I consider myself an introvert. But that team dynamic of sports allowed me to weather the storm in terms of my existence as a human being. And it's so special. And I look back on guys who I know, who I played with, or the teams that I'm currently involved with here at the college. I don't say I'm a big cheerleader, but I feel like I'm connected because that connection allowed me to be who I am today. And sports was a big component of that. And to come here and to coach men's basketball, women's basketball, men and women's track, football, who would have thought that I would be where I am now? When you look back on that box that you could have checked that this wouldn't have happened. But sports is that vehicle. And I think you look around society, sports is a powerful component of where we are because it's about entertainment at the higher level, but it's about family at different levels, you know, because you become a part of a family that you don't let go. And I think when you're in high school and college, those families really come together. And that's what allowed me to kind of flourish here at Amherst College, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. And kind of transitioning a little bit to Amherst Athletics and Amherst, the teams here. You know, you're an administrator, you've been a coach, but deep down, all of us know, like as coaches, like you're a player, like
Yes.
You're an athlete,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
who you are,
Right.
right? And that's where you started and stuff. And talk a little bit about, you were with our team in Rochester, and you've been with our team a couple times on the road. So I've gotten to know you a little bit as kind of a coach or an athlete and a fan and all that kind of stuff. Talk a little bit about when you're watching games of men's basketball, football, women's basketball, whatever it is, like what's going through your mind, sitting on the sideline and really rooting for one team and rooting for an Amherst team, and what's going through your mind that whole time?
It's just the joy of being successful. And I'm just going to give you a snapshot about the whole concept. When I was in high school and college, you know, we didn't lose a lot. But when I came to Amherst my first year, football, we were 0-22-1. Basketball, women's basketball, we didn't win games. We used to get beat by 50. But the one thing that I do remember is the excitement of teaching and learning that the students embraced, regardless of the outcome. And then all of a sudden, I always say the word turn. And now we're winners. And I look back at it, as I'm in the stands, I can reflect on, as a player, what it means to work hard, what it means to commit yourself, what it means for that individual eye to make the week great. So when you look at individual players or individual programs, how all of a sudden Amherst is on the map as one of the top schools in the country athletically in terms of winning. But when I came in here, that wasn't the case. So was there a gap. So as an administrator sitting back, it brings me so much joy to kind of live vicariously through the players and the coaches. You know, I can remember when Dave had to be away from the program and you won. Man, I was so happy for you. I ran up to you.
You're the first one up there.
And Don Foster after he was like, "Oh, Billy, you beat me to the punch." But you know, it's about that joy of seeing faces of overcoming. The same joy that I witnessed when we were 0-22-1. And those athletes who would do anything, but they just couldn't get there. But I'm like, if you keep working hard, you get there. And we stayed the course. And I reflect on when I'm sitting there watching games of where it wasn't the case. And I can look back on the beginning. It's about not what you've gone through, it's where you're trying to go. And enjoy those memories, because I always say memories become history. However, those memories can become the here and now. And so the here and now is when I get a chance to be on the road with Rochester. And you know, point guard to point guard, I love it, man. And so even with football, or you know, being a receiver and playing at the professional level, it brings back a lot of joy. And I'm fortunate that I'm blessed to experience from this position as well as when I was a player.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about sport. Like, you're an athlete, you're a competitor, right?
Yes, yes.
You're still a competitor.
No question.
You still go to games and you're locked in. You're
yes.
coaching from the
Oh, yeah.
sideline.
Oh,
You're
yes.
trying to
Oh,
tell
yes.
guys what to do, whatever it
yes.
is.
Oh,
Like
yes.
you want to win, and that's
Yes.
what I think is so special about sport. Whatever sport
Yes.
you play, to bring out that competitive side in you is
Yes.
pretty special.
And specifically at this place, like at Amherst, like what I've seen, you know, because I had a 1.5 year kind of hiatus at Oberlin where I was there, but at Amherst it's just different, right? Like there is just, and I think it starts with the college, and certainly it does because of, you know, I mean, obviously it's, you know, the top liberal arts school in the entire country, right? I mean, these students here are brought in here from all different backgrounds because they're special, right? And then you get into the athletic department, like that doesn't stop, like that's supposed to carry over. We expect it to carry over, and so like when, you know, women's soccer is out there, you know, kicking ass all year long, like that puts pressure on the rest of the programs, and that's good.
That's the greatest thing about this place.
Is that like everyone, if you're not winning here, you certainly don't feel like you're doing a good job, right? And because I mean, there's all sides to it, right? Winning, you can win on the field, off the field, but we're competitive in this department. Like, you know, every single team feels like they should be up for a NESCAC championship every year or NCAA championship, right?
And you know, we talked about it with men's and women's basketball, just for the hosting conversation that we had last week, but like, it's competitive. When we see GP going 66-0 and winning 2 national championships,
like, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Yeah,
No
right?
How can
question.
It's not like we were bad,
Right.
but we weren't 66-0.
No, that's
So
right.
it's you know, this year every year we go into practice and it's like GP was before or after us, and it's like, all right, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we got to live up to.
No question.
Which makes it awesome. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Good. Well, I got a question for you, right? So let's say there's a hypothetical, right? And now I'm a little bit worried after your boxing background, right? If we had, right, let's say, you know, an MMA tournament, who's the one coach at Amherst College that you would be terrified to be set up with in the first round, right? Who are you not looking forward to going
And you know,
against?
this lends to my personality as a kid growing up. I fear no one, and I think that I learned
I saw that coming.
Yeah.
I
No
learned
doubt.
that because, you know, there's a sad piece to that when I say that, and because life experiences is one of the best teachers. And I remember in the 11th grade, I was a pretty good athlete, and we played this team at Corcoran, and I remember I almost lost my life after a football game. You know, I was stabbed in the back and 2 inches from my spine, and I think I ran 10 blocks, 1 block more, and I lost my life. And so at that moment, the fear of knowing that I could lose my life was terrifying. But when I got through that, I said, I fear no one. And the one thing I had to learn along the way without being feared is to trust and love. And I think that's a part of what I'm afraid of most is who can you trust and who can you love, not fear.
Yeah, I don't have a follow-up for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That was not planned. I was hoping he was going to say like Mills or something. That was awesome.
Well, do you have any other questions? I've got one final question for him eventually, but if you got stuff before we get to that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So basically the last thing I want to ask is just kind of for you to talk about the state of Amherst Athletics. And obviously we're in an exciting time with both men's and women's basketball playing in the NCAA tournament, spring sports starting up, and you know, like we've talked about a little bit, like the success at Amherst is unbelievable, and it's great to be a part of and be around every day. But from your mindset, what's the state of Amherst Athletics, the good, the bad, what needs to change, what we need to continue doing to continue to stay where we are in terms of being one of the best in D3?
I like the way what you said about continue.
Yeah.
That to me is powerful because continue to get better. Continue to understand when I say the individual eyes make the we great. So individual teams continue to make the we look good. And if we can stay consistent with everybody bringing their best self, the teams, the coaches, because like you guys said earlier, everybody wants to be a part of something that's good. Everybody wants to be connected to that championship of that other sport that mirrors. Because that's the beautiful thing about sport. You have the gender, you have the male, you have the female, but at the end of the day, it's that Amherst brand that sticks out. And it's a powerful, unique brand. And we said earlier, it's like no other. And I think everybody wants to stay consistent. They want to continue that culture of winning. But we know, first and foremost, in order to continue that culture of winning, we have to attract the best and the brightest. And I think we don't make mistakes in that. Because as you know, when you look at students who are juniors in high school and seniors, what character are they bringing to the table to continue that goal of excellence? And I think if we continue to bring those type of students in, we will continue to be a leader in our conference of being successful and maintaining championships over time and time. And I think if we continue to do that, that's where I think the state of the sport of Amherst Athletics is. It's about that brand.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's one of the things I think we're trying to focus on is like, hey, like I love social media. I love selling Amherst football on social media, but just as much I love selling Amherst basketball, Amherst women's basketball, women's soccer,
Yes.
Women's volleyball, because it's like you said, like it's not just about us. I want to show people that you're coming to a place that wins in everything we
Yes.
do, right? Like, or that's the goal. Like, it doesn't matter what we're doing. Doesn't matter
Right.
if it's a test, a quiz, a game, a scrimmage. We want to win. That's who we want to be, because that's what Amherst, the college, tells you to do in class, right? It tells you to take it to the next level.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for coming, Billy.
Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Have a
lot.
good one, Billy.
You bet.
Thanks, Billy. All right, that was the legend, Billy McBride. Unbelievable guy to have in our department here at Amherst College. So much insight that he provided for us today on his background and what's so special about Amherst College. It was great to talk to him and hear from him.
Yeah, he's a fantastic role model. You really can't. I don't think you see necessarily what he does on a daily basis and how important he is to not only coaches in this department, but really our students, which is what our job is, right? Like, our job is not about us; it's about the students at Amherst College and the ones who we come across every day. So what he does for them, and really he's a role model to these kids, and a lot of kids have similar backgrounds to him, and it's really, really interesting to kind of see that dynamic. I love the side that we brought in because he talked a little bit about it, but if you're walking down the hallway and he's got his eyes up from his desk, you're in.
You're caught.
You are in it.
You're caught.
Like, and I think it's at 5 minutes on there.
Wow.
Like, that's an undersell.
Yeah, that's
for
an
sure.
undersell. But I'm super excited. Like, I hope to get him on as like a guest host one day, just to have you guys see the real Billy McBride. He'll get out. He was pretty serious today, which we appreciate. But he's very laid back and he's a funny guy. And hopefully one day we can have him on as a guest host to get us through the whole show.
His energy and enthusiasm for Amherst Athletics would be like a huge asset to this for sure. But no, before we get to the what to watch for next week in Amherst Athletics, real quick, we got a new segment, right? We're bringing in Coach Adam Banks. He's the quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator for Amherst College football. Celtics Talk, right? The Celtics are in a little bit of turmoil.
A lot to talk about right now with the Celtics.
A lot to talk about. We thought it was going to be like a 1-2 minute segment. I think we got 5.
I think
down
we
with
got
Coach
close to
Banks.
5. So
Let's send it to Coach Banks right now. We welcome on Coach Adam Banks, Timothy Adam Banks. Maybe I'll cut that out. But quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator for Amherst College football. For Celtics Talk. So, big news in the Banks family. For anyone that didn't know, Coach Banks and his wife Heidi welcomed their son Desmond Lewis. Desmond Lewis Banks into the world on February 8th, right? And that was a point of change in the Celtics season.
Sure was.
Before the birth of D-Money, as I like to call him, the Celtics were on a 10-2 run, beat some of the best teams in the East and West since 5-6. Coach Banks, do you think D-Money is a curse of the Celtics?
I mean, for a while, I certainly thought so. It actually started the day before he was born.
That was the Lakers'
lost
loss.
a heartbreaker to the Lakers with by the hands of Rajon Rondo, no less. So that kind of started the slide.
R.I.P.
Then after the All-Star break, had a win or two, and then right back in the cracker. So we've certainly had some talks, he and I, but hopefully we're starting to turn the corner a little bit.
Good. Well, what would you say to the people who say that there was a A little bit of collusion on the part of the Warriors throwing that game just to give Kyrie and the Celtics a little bump. I feel like, you could tell Steph felt bad for him. He didn't shimmy one time. All right, he didn't even play defense.
It's tough to shimmy when you're down, pretty much the entire game. So, I don't know. But I don't put too much into that. I think the Warriors are a bunch of professionals, and they certainly conduct themselves as such. So,
It's a very professional answer there. Talk to us a little bit about Kyrie. Is Kyrie the issue?
To me, and I've been saying this really since last season, the notion that the Celtics are a better team without Kyrie Irving, to me, is completely
Scary Terry's the best player in the NBA.
Please stop. Stop.
He's the best player in the NBA. When he's on, he's on. Did you see Kyrie last night? Gordon Hayward hits the shot. Kyrie basically said, "Let's go" to him, and to me that means, "Hey, let's get out of Boston."
That's on his mind. He's not staying in Boston.
No, I don't. I honestly don't think so, and it definitely breaks my heart, to think that. But just kind of with all the turmoil that they've gone through, the Boston media. Kyrie's kind of an interesting guy anyway. I think he wants to be the focal point, but when things are going well, I don't think he wants to blame for any of this.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want the cameras on him or anything, but I want to be a leader. No.
That's not how that works.
No. If he could just get buckets and shut it down, we'd be great.
Did Kobe Bryant ruin Jason Tatum's season? Did he
No.
ruin his career?
Well, I think it's more than a sophomore slump. What do you think?
I don't know. I think he's certainly better in isolation right now. But I think a lot of the style of play, and there's not enough basketballs to go around for guys that have had good years. Like I said, Kobe spending the summer with Jason Tatum, that certainly doesn't help Brad Stevens' system of basketball by any stretch.
Agree with that.
So I don't know if it hurt his career, but it's certainly hurting our team. It would seem, just because Brad Stevens' system is certainly sharing the basketball. It's not about isolation. He could go play for Mike D'Antoni.
Big two straight wins though to kind of in that slide. What do you think? What do you give credit to for those two wins? And obviously one's versus the Warriors, which is unanimously the best team.
Huge wins. Kyrie obviously was out last night.
Scary Terry, count it.
I'm of the school of thought that I don't worry about necessarily Kyrie being in the lineup, because I think you can't obviously replace a player like Kyrie, but we can kind of do it by committee. The players that I think hurt us the most when they're out of the lineup is Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Aaron Baines, because we just get killed on the glass when Baines isn't in the game, especially we have a lot of just kind of one-shot possessions, when that happens. So,
he's been in and out last two games.
He has, but
he's been back though.
When we don't have a big, Al works so hard on the defensive end, and they play a lot of two-man game when he and Kyrie are in the game. So a lot of time he's at the top of the key, and there's just no one to kind of get those old boards. So, Bainesy's a big piece.
Is he from Australia? He's a big
I think so.
Australian.
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah,
Shout out the Australians, because Ben Simmons is the best point guard in the league. At least in the East, for sure. So, thanks, Coach Banks, for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks to Coach Banks for jumping in with us for Celtics Talk this week. Certainly, the Boston media and even Boston sports fans are wild too. But we certainly aren't going to let them off the hook anytime soon, or D-Money for that matter. But what do you got? What to watch for this week in Amherst Athletics?
Yeah, this week we got a couple teams starting off their spring season. Baseball is heading down to Kissimmee, Florida to play 8 games in 7 days.
It's wild.
And then softball is heading down to Claremont, Florida to play 10 games in 7 days.
I don't understand how you have that many pitchers. That's wild.
So, quick start for baseball and softball. A lot of games in a short amount of time here on spring break down in Florida. Super pumped to see how Coach Pine and Coach Johnson start off the year with their squads.
Excited, yep. So we got, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but men's lacrosse is playing at home versus Bowdoin. Women's lacrosse is going to Bowdoin this weekend on Saturday, and then women's lacrosse actually coming back here to play William Smith
Yep,
right on Sunday. So excited to watch those those games and see if they can both keep those winning streaks rolling. Then obviously we got basketball, right?
big
We
weekend.
talked a little bit about it, but men are at home when we're going to St. Thomas. Sweet 16 bound. Let's get it done.
Yeah. So that's all we got for you today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll sign off here, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Drink
All
down.
right.
I'll be home for the holiday. Hey, and to those that I used to know from way before, keep your head up. Come, let's get this bread up. Girl, I gotta go. I wish I could stay, but I'm coming home for the holiday.